The metaverse is blurring the borders between the physical and online world. You can purchase digital art and even buy land or buildings using digital currencies. But like all investments or purchases, buyers need to be aware of what they are getting into.
Whether you are investing in cryptocurrencies, non-fungible tokens, or even virtual land, I think it's very important to understand the value of the digital asset that you are investing in. It's also important to understand the technology behind the digital asset that you are investing in. So for example, algorithmic stable coins have come to the forefront quite recently. And I think it's important to understand what it is from a technological point of view before you actually invest funds in it. And I think lastly, it's also worth considering the legality behind the investment. So depending on the actual activity that you're looking at, there might be licensing requirements behind it. And if you're investing into something that is not licensed, when there's actually a requirement to be licensed, you might not be able to get anything back if a problem arises.
With the rise in popularity of digital assets, disputes and legal issues have also started becoming more prevalent.
The types of problems and issues that come up with the metaverse types of disputes are not that different from what you see in other types of sectors. So you would see the typical breach of contract, right? Wrongful termination, for example. You would see a dispute over an IP right, copyright, trademarks. So we see disputes that manifest themselves in very ordinary ways in the form of contractual breaches largely. And I would add that actually really the relationship between the parties is usually contractual in nature, whether through an agreement or through the platform where there are terms and conditions.
In a first, a Singaporean man won a court order to stop the sale and transfer of a non-fungible token, or NFT. The injunction was issued by the Singapore High Court. It prohibits the transfer of ownership of an NFT at the center of a dispute between him and an online persona with the screen name of Chef Pierre. The NFT is part of a series issued by the Bored Ape Yacht Club. The market value of the cheapest item in the collection is currently 84 Ethereum, or over 150,000 US dollars at current prices. It was offered as collateral on a loan repayment, but instead, the lender, Chef Pierre, attempted to seize the NFT and transfer it to his digital wallet. The injunction is trying to stop that from happening. It appears to be the first time a court has frozen the trading of an NFT in a commercial dispute.
If you ask a decentralization purist, they might think code is law. And if you follow code is law, that means that if any smart contract directs the digital asset to a particular wallet, then that person is the owner, right? But then increasingly we are seeing another school of thought developing, which is that code may not necessarily be law, that even when you are having transactions in the metaverse, classic principles of contract law, of property law ought to apply as well to govern your transactions.
Instead of going to the courts, as in the Bored Ape NFT case, other avenues for dispute resolution in the digital world include mediation or arbitration.
There's quite a transnational nature to such disputes, and the parties involved may be from multiple jurisdictions. And arbitration has become a very popular form of dispute resolution for that reason. And this is because there is a convention called the New York Convention that has been very well subscribed by many countries. There are 170 countries that have signed on to the convention. And what this means is that when parties submit their disputes to arbitration and the arbitrator comes up with an arbitral award, that award can be brought to the courts of these 170 countries for enforcement.
One of the big challenges of dispute resolution in the metaverse is whether existing legal infrastructure can be adapted into the virtual world.
One of the key characteristics of NFTs, Metaverse, and virtual world is going to be smart contract. Now, smart contracts are written with programmable language to operate certain actions when conditions are met. Now, these are written in programmable language. They may not even be in English. So how does that actually fall into standard contractual law in our society? How do we go about defining that? The second challenge that we have to face is intellectual property. Now, earlier in January, we really saw how Hermes sued an artist, for Metaverse collection, right? And this is really where we begin to think, how do we draw the parameters of infringement? What amalgamates to sort of copyright and copying other people's work in virtual world, by changing colors, by changing patterns? Do that actually fall within the premise of copying other people's work on virtual world?
In addition to being the co-founder of a digital payment service provider, Mr. Lee is also a crypto investor. He says stakeholders in the ecosystem should learn some basic coding so that they can understand the technology behind these digital assets.
For lawyers and law society to even understand how smart contract works, how programmable language are written, is a first step to sort of put together a framework of how to deal with cases where smart contracts have executed an action, but it is not to the benefit of those who have committed to it. And those are the key steps to get us there, the cross-interaction as well as education between industry and professionals.